The U.S.-China trade war escalates. The Trump administration announcing a list of possible new tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. Owen Fairclough is following the developments from a Washington newsroom. So, Owen, these tariffs, not a done deal yet.
Not a done deal, Elaine, and the US appears to be trying to hit people in the stomach this time. This new list of tariffs runs to some 200 pages. There are hundreds and hundreds of different products on there, everything from live electric eels being imported to the US, even to pecan nuts, which are produced in China and also exported. But there are plenty of products on there that have already rattled not just global investors, but US manufacturers as well, who are going to be wondering how they can source their parts more cheaply now that they're going to be hit with tariffs yet again. As you mentioned, we're talking about goods worth a total of $200 billion. Combine that with the $34 billion that the Trump administration has already imposed on Chinese imports, and you're looking at around half the total exports from China to the United States. So we're talking about some serious numbers here and what would amount to a serious tax on Chinese goods. All of this, of course, pressure from the US to try and make China change what the US contends are unfair trade practices. That's obstacles to getting into the Chinese market and even forcing US companies to hand over trade secrets, practices which China has long denied. But you can see where this is going, Elaine. US President Donald Trump has said he's even prepared to put imports on Chinese goods worth a total of $500 billion. That would be pretty much the total value of all Chinese imports into the US.
And Owen, we already know that China is imposing retaliatory tariffs on the US. How is it likely to respond to these latest increased tariffs?
We know China's position very well on this. It said it's prepared for a trade war. It's even calling this a trade war officially now, and has said it will go all the way. We don't know how far it can go, really, given that China imports so much less from the US into China than it sells the other way. But it has plenty of other tools it can rely on. For example, taxing US companies a little more when they're setting up business in China. It's also doing its best to protect its own businesses. It's imposed retaliatory tariffs on the US and is going to reimburse certainly soybean importers in China for the extra hit they're taking on increased tariffs. It's also stressed that it's also already undertaking many of the reforms that the US is demanding, providing better access for US companies. Tesla, the US electric car maker, for example, has just announced it's going to set up production in China without a local partner. That's a big step and a big change. That's just one example of how things are changing. The problem for these two sides now is that they simply stopped talking officially about how to resolve this huge and damaging trade battle, and there doesn't appear to be any sign of these sides wanting to resume those talks. Elaine.
All right, Owen Fairclough in our Washington newsroom.